I want to share my love of Last of Us with you. So why do I love, let's see if I can get this nice and comfy here. That feels relatively decent. Ooh. So I am 38. It's 2025. And I very first played, oh man, that is so annoying to hold. Fuck me. How's that? Let's see. I've got my leg up here, chilling. My son's backpack over there. Okay. I don't know how to hold this so I don't have to. Ooh, there we go. How's that? Alright, I think I'm good. Well, hello. Alright, so I'm 38, 2025. I don't remember. So I played Last of Us very first when I was in California. And that would have been, so got married in 2013. And we moved to California in 2014. And it would have been early 2015, I want to say, that I very first played Last of Us. And at this time, so I PlayStation, I played PlayStation ever since the very first one. And we were out in California, and I just wanted a game. It was me and my wife out in California. And I was in the habit at the time of, if I didn't really know that I wanted a game, I would like Redbox it or, whatever. I think you'd pay like $2 to $3 a night or something like that. So, to finish a game, you'd end up paying $10 or something. And if it was one of these story games, and if I didn't like it, I could just go put it back. And I didn't have to resell it or whatever at the time. So I didn't play Last of Us when it first came out because I wasn't super into zombies. I didn't care about zombies. I wasn't way big into zombie movies or shows or whatever. And so I thought Last of Us was going to be like, I wasn't super excited for it. It came out, or I was like, I'll try it. And the very beginning scene, I remember playing it and just being like, oh shit. This hits different. Grabs you from the very beginning, and you realize that it's not, there's zombies in it, but it's a human story. It's not a zombie story. Zombies happen to be in it, infected. And I had no idea how it would affect me at the time. So I played it all the way through. And I just fell in love with Ellie. She's this punk teenage girl. She's swearing left and right to Joel. And at the time, I've since left the church, but at the time, I was a member of the LDS church. And I watched rated R movies here and there. At this time in my life, a few years before, you wouldn't have caught me dead watching a rated R movie. At this time in my life, I was a little bit more loose in that. But there was this game that came out, Last of Us, that, I don't know, there was something about the story, this dynamic between her and Joel, where Joel had just lost his daughter. I mean, not just, obviously, I can't remember how many years go by in the story. I guess it's like 15 years, right? Because Ellie's 14, 15. And Joel, and Ellie was born right when it happened. So yeah, I guess it was like 15 years. But here comes Ellie, this like freaking crazy, witty, angry, kind of angsty teenager, and there's this real connection that's happening between Joel and Ellie. And you get to even play. I remember being able to play as Ellie, and I remember when winter season comes and you're shooting with a bow and arrow and you have to shoot the deer, and it was just this beautiful, it felt very real, you know. And then you're playing as Ellie and you meet David, that absolute disgusting creep, and you're fighting for your life, and it's just a very emotional story. It doesn't feel, it hit my emotions on a deeper level, and I almost felt like, as I was playing the game, like, because I'm not the type of game, I'm not a completionist by nature with gaming. I don't play a game and then replay it and then replay it and replay it to try to get all the trophies. There's a few exceptions, and Last of Us is one of them. I played it probably 6 or 7 times all the way through. I beat it on grounded mode. You know, I got all the trophies. And that was really hard for me. It was out of character at the time, but I felt like I wanted to do that for the characters in the game. Like, it was like this relationship that I had. Like, I wanted their story to be told in a way, and grounded mode was probably the truest way that it would have been told, in a sense, in my head, you know. And so yeah, so that, it meant a lot to me at the time. And there were other games that at the time that meant a lot to me. Like, I loved Assassin's Creed. I loved, trying to think of what other games had come out around then that I loved. I remember playing Black Flag and some of the Fallout games, and I had played Skyrim. But when it came to, like, and Tomb Raider, I'm pretty sure I played those before this. My favorite games were like the single player immersion type games. So yeah, it really meant a lot to me. And the music, the haunting music. I remember when the game ended, and it pissed me the fuck off, because, you know, here Joel and Ellie come to Jackson, and Ellie is like, you tell me, like, what happened? And Joel's like, turns out there were more people like you. And Ellie can just tell that Joel's lying. And it left you hanging in a way, it left me hanging in a way that pissed me off, but at the same time, what else, it almost felt true to the story, because what else are they going to do? How are they going to just resolve it in this happy-go-lucky ending? Like, it felt like real life in this dystopian universe where there's infected and all this stuff. And it didn't try to pretend. It didn't try to tell you a story just to make you feel good. It brought you into this story, into this real world story. And you brush up against these things, like you feel the weight that Joel feels when he loses his daughter Sarah. He's holding Sarah in his arms, running away from his city, from these infected, and he's running away, and the very people that are supposed to keep you safe kill his daughter. And it was real. It wasn't like, we're just going to tell a story here. You can imagine being in that situation where shit's hit the fan, like everybody's eating each other, you're trying to get away, and then if you flip the script and you're the person in the military side, you realize that shit's hitting the fan, you get orders. What are you supposed to, like, it's not your job to have moral code at that point, you know? And so it's this story of tough moral choices from the very fucking beginning of the game. You know, and then, you know, you hear that Joel and Tess, well, they run these operations and they haven't been the cleanest. They've gotten their hands dirty many times. And what does that mean? It lets your imagination wander, but survival isn't clean. You don't get the privilege. If you want to survive, you don't get the privilege of trying to like figure out what's going to be best for everybody. It's back to the wall. Somebody's going to die and somebody's going to live. And it puts you in that very real space, which at the time in my life, you know, I was a new husband. I was trying to make it work as a door-to-door salesman for Vivint Solar out in California, and felt like absolute shit in myself. Like how am I supposed to do this? I felt like a failure. I felt like an imposter in my own life. And so the synergy of this game felt like a perfect moment for my life at the time. Like it was real in a way that obviously it was just a story, but it almost like went there in some of those dark emotions with me at the time. And it meant so fucking much to me. Like it was so real. It was more real than any video game. And when I say real, it's a story, but the emotions that I felt, the way that I connected with the storyline and with the characters was more real than any video game that I had played to date, you know. And I'm trying to be real with that. Like some of the other video games I remember really jiving with, like for example, during high school, Prince of Persia, I remember really jiving with that, but it wasn't the storyline that I jived with. It was more the gaming in general. And then listening to Linkin Park, and you know, it held space for me when I was feeling lonely during that time. Anyway, so fast forward, and 2020, I guess it was 2020, right? Because it was the pandemic happened, and yeah, ironically, yeah, the pandemic happened, and I got work off because I was going to play it. And this was, by this point in 2020, I had created a little bit of an identity with Last of Us, and it being my favorite game. And so and I also had this little bit of a fantasy of wanting to become a streamer in a sense, and just tease out like what that could look like, what that would be. And so, you know, I thought that would be the perfect opportunity to stream Last of Us Part 2. And so I did. I got that opportunity, and it was a blast. It made the game even more fun. I ended up making a video that had like 500,000 views or something. That was just really cool. It was a really cool experience to be able to kind of share my love of the game with other people, and then hear their love of the game, and then kind of be one of the many people who others enjoyed the game through, you know? And so I got to know Last of Us Part 2 very, very good, very well. And played through so many times. I never was able to finish it on permadeath. I got 13 or 14 hours in, but was never able to actually fully finish permadeath. But Part 2 was unfucking real. And my admiration for Neil Druckmann just went through the roof. And I know that this is the polarizing part. This is the controversial part, because not all Last of Us fans agree with me. Some really, you know, really absolutely hate Neil, hate some of the actors, feel that the storyline that he took the storyline into his hands. He took his fans for granted. He took his fans, for granted. They don't agree with what he did with Joel. They didn't feel like it was true to the story, you know, those things. I don't agree with that at all. I could not I was so fucking impressed with Last of Us Part 2. The way that the storyline went it felt like, because how do you do part 2? Because everybody's, you've got these fans, and everybody's got their fandom version of what happened next. And how do you, as the story creator, make it true to the story, and also make it so that your fans aren't like, they didn't just predict the whole thing? Well, they did that. Joel dies within the first hour of the game, within the first, super, super quick. In one of the most brutal ways possible, and it makes sense. And I remember, so in the beginning of Last of Us Part 2, I'm playing through it, and I'm like, okay, they cannot, personally, the revenge plot is so, okay, it's gaming, right? The revenge plot is just gaming. It's an easy way to create a bunch of emotion. These are the bad guys over here. They did something bad to us. We're going to go get them. All right, we've talked about 90% of video games. Like, they're the bad guys, we're the good guys. And so as I'm playing through it, and Ellie and Dina have this, oh God, by the way, the greatest, I just absolutely love Ellie and Dina. I'll get into that in a minute. But as we're going through our journey, and Ellie and Dina freaking take off on this vengeful mission, in my head I'm like, okay, are we really, did Last of Us really just stoop to a revenge plot? So we went from the first one, and there wasn't really like, it was really like, how far would you go for somebody you love? That was kind of the feeling of the first one. The second one, are we really just doing revenge? Is that it? And so when you switch and you play as the protagonist, and you play from the point of view of Abby, I was just like, oh my God. Like, I hated it. And that's why I loved it, is because it challenged me to the core. It challenged me in ways I did not like, in ways that I was not uncomfortable with. I hated Abby because she freaking killed Joel. But at the same time, the game forced me to look through Abby's eyes. And in my real life, I'm a therapy junkie. In my real life, I'm constantly trying to gain new perspectives and figure out how I might be looking at this in a way that's unhealthy, so that I can, focus on growth. And I don't like being around people who can't call me out on my bullshit. I don't want a circle jerk session of, oh, Adam, you're so good. Oh, you're so right. That person was such an idiot. Oh, I'm so tired of that bullshit. Aren't you? I get so tired of intimacy avoiding relationships where the whole point of the relationship is to just soothe each other, And I need people in my life to be like, hey man, I think you actually missed the mark there. I actually don't agree with that. And I might not agree with them, but I need my people to be able to say, hey, Adam, I don't agree with you. And then we can have a conversation, And that's what this game absolutely did, is it went there. It basically said, hey, Joel did a bunch of shit. And now we're going to look at the point, instead of just being us versus them, we're going to flip the script, and we're going to look at what the point of view from this other group of people was looking at Joel. And that's what Last of Us 2 did. It went there in a way that no game has ever done, in a glorious, magical, gut-wrenching, violent way that was true to the story, that had the most haunting, powerful music, that was so fun. I mean, Jesus, there is no scarier monster in any video game I've ever played, I think, including the Rat King. I mean, the Rat King inside Last of Us Part 2 is terrifying. It was. But it was so, like, magnificently terrifying that I still can't... Yeah, it was so scary. Like, even on permadeath, I spent, I think, 40 to 50 hours trying to beat that guy on permadeath over and over and over and over and over and over, just trying to do it. That I really can't say he's the scariest monster, because he was supposed to, I don't know. The clicker, for me, Last of Us Part 2 clicker was terrifying. The wolf, the dogs in Last of Us Part 2 were terrifying. The way that they did the combat system in Last of Us Part 2 was terrifying. I remember getting flanked constantly. You know, and I'm streaming. Like, I'm streaming. I'm a decent video gamer by this point. I mean, by decent, if you play online, you're instantly made to feel like an idiot, and you're not decent, because there's a million people who are just way better than you. So when I say decent, I mean I could play video games decently well on medium difficulty and be okay. So I played this on medium difficulty. No, I think I started it out on hard and then had to go down to medium. And I remember getting into, oh God, what is it? Streets. Yeah, the streets. And the combat difficulty was so intuitive. You know, they would be calling each other. They would be using their dogs to sniff you out. And then, you know, you're starting to shake and you fall on the ground and the dog's running. Like, I was just physically getting scared, you know? But there's nothing that quite freaks me the fuck out like a clicker. The clicker in Last of Us, not Part 1. They're scary in Part 1, but Last of Us Part 2, they're just another level, man. They're another level of fear. The way that they find you, the way that they sound, oh, it's just terrifying. So there was this fun element to Last of Us Part 2 that was glorious, in addition to the depth of story. You know, the depth of story, I haven't found a game quite to match it. And then there's the Ellie Dina story, and it just landed for me personally. I just absolutely was fully stuck in, or enraptured, or it just hit. It was such a real, beautiful story. I loved it from the very get-go. The way that they tell this story of Ellie and Dina. You know, Ellie's always kind of got this crush on Dina. She's the talk of the town, kind of cute girl. And she's with, oh God, what's his name? Jesse. She's with Jesse. They share this kiss that you don't actually end up getting to see till the very end of the game, which I thought is masterful. Masterful, the way that they tell the story through bits and pieces throughout the game until the very end, when you finally get to see the kiss of Ellie and Dina. And the hot, sweaty kiss right there, and it's just masterful. And I'm like second guessing myself on that, but I'm pretty sure that you don't see the kiss until the very end of the game. And then you get all your answers kind of met with Joel and Ellie, and you get this sweet warm, somehow, you know, by the end of the game, you get that sweet warm blanket of Ellie and Joel talking and connecting. And you know, on the porch where they talk and they connect, and you feel that, I'm just getting goosebumps even talking about it, where you feel that love between them, where they're able to start repairing some of their relationship and getting on the same page, where Ellie's basically like, look, I don't know that I can forgive you ever, but I'm gonna try, you know, which was more than enough for Joel. And but it's messy. And I love that about Last of Us, is it lets the story be messy. It doesn't have to pretty it up like a Disney movie. It doesn't have to end perfect and be like, oh, happily ever after. It's messy, and real life is messy, and it lets it be okay. And I really value that about the game, about the storyline in the game. There's people coming into this parking lot, and I'm getting a little self-conscious. But going back to Ellie and Dina, I think this is my favorite romance of any video game relationship ever. And I think it's because it's so real. I can connect to it so much, even though I'm a guy, I'm a dude, and it's a lesbian gay storyline. It doesn't matter. None of that. It doesn't. What matters is the fact that it felt real to me. And Ellie is this scrappy, this thin. To me, she has very strong masculine vibes, but she's very much a girl. And in part 2, she's got that strong energy of like, I have a mission. I'm edgy. She's resentful. She's very much mission focused. And she's ruthless, man. She is ruthless. And then you've got this cutesy Dina. And to me, the reason that their love works is because Dina is just taken with Ellie. You know, Ellie already had a crush on Dina, and she was cool with Dina not liking her. Like, it was just, you know, it was whatever. Ellie's just kind of doing her thing. She's not motivated by this codependent love. Where Dina is kind of more of this codependent energy to me. She's got this, like, I don't know, she wants to stick herself to some kind of strength. And she sticks herself to Ellie, and Ellie is just this fierce force that she just is. It's almost like that energy that she's just taken with Ellie, and from that moment, they're just taken with each other, and they freaking go to Seattle. They're just like, all right, we're going. We're gonna go. Dina doesn't really know why. She just is like, I'm going with you. I'm committed to you, kind of thing. And then their story kind of gets messy and complicated as it goes, and I personally loved it. I thought there were a couple holes I didn't quite fully like. For example, when Dina got pregnant, or when Dina announced that she gets pregnant, I like how they did it, because it was messy and it was frustrating. It's like, God damn it. And I like how Ellie was pissed off at first. She's like, really? You're gonna slow me down now? Like, what the fuck? But then she came back, and, you know, they repaired and went through that. But I felt like there was a lot more of the Ellie Dina story that was waiting, that I wanted more of that in the game. But anyway, so I loved the game, and I loved the way that they told the game, and then the way that you play Abby, and you get to know Abby's story, and you get to know her side of things, and then she gets her world flipped on its head with the whole Seraphites versus WLFs. And and now she's with a scar and her whole world. So now she's attacking, she feels vindicated, she feels righteous indignation towards this man who killed her dad, Joel. But yet she can't see the blind spot in her world of her hating these scars, and she doesn't really know why. She just kills them without knowing their story. And so then her story gets flipped on her head, with the hero of the whole story to me is Owen. Owen basically telling her, like, hey, these are just people, you know. And she can't see past her own worldview until she gets her ass saved by these scars. And then she turns around and saves them. God, am I getting that right? Because she gets risen up, and then they, Lev and Lev's sister come and freak Yara, cut her down, and then she basically saves them. And then there's this genuine, incredible relationship that's built kind of like the Joel and Ellie, but with Abby and Lev, where they turn into a ride or die. They turn into the relationship that's exiting the WLFs, all the way to the point where there's this meeting in Santa Barbara where Ellie, and then it becomes this revenge plot. And I love the masterful way that Neil tells the story of Ellie and Abby finally basically meeting in Santa Barbara, where Abby has had enough. She's basically like, you know what, I'm done. But Ellie isn't. In fact, she leaves Dina and their son to come complete this revenge plot, because she just can't handle the PTSD, which is so real. They don't have therapy out there. They don't have some way to, like, ground out this this horrible PTSD, this horrible trauma that she has. So she's gonna go and finish the revenge plot, and it's so uncomfortable as you're playing, and you finally get to fight with Ellie and Abby. And it's the most scrappy, most violent, intimately violent moment, because you're trying to kill Abby, and it gets all the way to the end where Ellie is finally able to kill Abby, and it gets almost to that point, and it's almost like there's this closing the loop, but there's nothing there, where Ellie finally gets it, and then she lets go, and she sits there crying as she lets Abby leave with Lev, because it's almost like she finally sees that there's no end. It's getting cold in here. How's it cold? It's like 80 degrees outside. Where you finally see that there is no closure with revenge. And Ellie goes back, and just like Dina said, she's gone. She and the kid are gone. And that story just wraps me up in the most wonderful blanket, not because it's some happy story, but because it's a hard story, and it comes and sits with me in hard emotions. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the story was made to push some kind of agenda. It doesn't feel like the story was made to make a bunch of money. You know, there's not buttons in there. Like, for example, in a bunch of games nowadays, you go to the menu, and you can buy in-game currency with real money, and it just pops your head right out of the game instantly. It's a story that feels clean in the dirtiest way. Like, it's not trying to be anything other than what it is. And so I can lose myself in this story and learn and feel these people's emotions during these different experiences, and I can kind of put my emotions inside this story, and it's safe to feel that way. And it also matches my emotions in my own life, and it's like makes me not feel so alone. It's like and it helps in this type of story, gives color to my own world. It's like, oh, I wonder how it makes you question your own self. Like, maybe there isn't good and bad. Maybe the way that I'm perceiving this person, they probably have a story too, So it's beautiful. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that's my video of why I love Last of Us so much.